We're at Bloodroot with Democratic candidate for mayor John Gomes and his wife Janet. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. John, give us a little background, some of the audience, a flavor for where you were raised, your professional background, and so on.
To begin, as you said, this is my wife, Janet. We've been together for approximately 22 years, my high school sweetheart. We have 4 young daughters, Alexandria, Aracelis, Ariana, and Alicia. All attend the public education system here. Great, wonderful kids. Personally, on an individual basis, I grew up here in Bridgeport. Since coming from Cape Verde Island, as a young boy, it was here in Bridgeport, in the hollow section of Bridgeport, that I found comfort along other relatives and family members.
Why are you running for mayor?
Well, my decision to run for mayor, one of the key aspects, or one of the fundamental factors in that, was due to my responsibility as city staff. As you know, my responsibility as city staff, as a director, was to look at accountability, efficiency, and bring about transparency within the different agencies within the city. What we tried to do as city staff would emulate what Baltimore did. Baltimore has gained both national and international recognition for what they have achieved as far as bringing about cost savings and creating transparency within that city. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's exactly what we tried to do in the city of Bridgeport. And obviously we knew there was going to be some type of resistance. Initially there was some soft resistance, but ultimately that resistance became hard and pushed me out, or forced me out rather. And in working with City Stat, I really gained a strong insight as to the municipal function, the municipal objectives, and the needs of the citizen. And if you were to agree with me, there's a lot to be done in Bridgeport, but the only thing, it's being done the wrong way. And through the experience that I had with City Stat, I feel that I could coordinate, I could bring that forth, where we would put together a government that's responsive to the needs of the citizen of Bridgeport, that's transparent, and most important, that's efficient in the way it does its everyday service.
Mayor Bill Finch appointed you to this position.
Yes, he did.
Give us a flavor for, obviously you had a falling out with him. Give us a flavor for what happened. What did you want to implement that he did not agree with?
Well, I think what you have to look at is perhaps the overall situation with City Stat. It's not one recommendation or 2 recommendations. Over the period of time, we've had, I believe, over 117 recommendations. In order to implement City Stat, you have to be hands-on. You have to understand the function of the city and able to coordinate it so you'll be able to see the results. You cannot have City Stat just as an office and a position, but something that really entails you digging into it and seeing what's going on. I think initially when I began the position of City Stat, and the role was really to report to the mayor, similarly the way it's been done in Baltimore, not to report to the CAO or another individual within the city, because City Stat is supposed to work independently. It's not that City Stat will go in there and say you have to do this. City Stat is a process. It's a process of getting to know the individual function, working with the frontline workers, and collecting the data and putting that data forth, where collectively you could arrive at that situation. But the hostility and the, let's say, the heart of the environment made it impossible to execute many of the recommendations. For example, when you look at take-home cars, when you look at the structure of public facility, when you look at the sanitation department, when you look at recycling department, its strategy, its implementation. So there's an array of areas that we talked about and recommended, and none of those things were implemented the way we put it forth.
Did you have any issues with political sacred cows?
I think that was the key issue, is that, again, as I said, when you look at City Stat, its ability to implement certain recommendations, it would result in perhaps a shakedown in what you call the sacred cows. and these sacred cows have been left alone or put in that place for too long of a time, and the control that they have had is too much, and they serve as an impediment to implement the recommendations that we put forth.
Okay, let's segue and talk a little bit about how you left government.
Right.
Give us some back, because you had an altercation at the Cape Verdean Club, correct?
Right. Cape Verdean Association of Bridgeport.
Right, and you had an altercation with the police officer, and the administration used that as the foundation to eliminate you?
Well, you know, I'll begin by telling you that what happened at the Cape Verdean Association was a very painful, humiliating, and very embarrassing situation, not only to myself, my wife, our kids, but the Cape Verdean community overall. But at the same time, I could tell you that we gained strong support from other communities around, and the Cape Verdean community itself became tighter than ever, because the other communities knew that what transpired that day was not a reflection of who we are as a community. At the same time, there remains a lot of distorted facts that were put out there about that night and what occurred. And as a matter of fact, Lanny, I would invite you to come this year, because we will carry the same function again. This is a function that we do on a yearly basis in an association that has been there for over 30 years. Whether we do it in the afternoon for the kids and in the nighttime for the adult, we do this on an annual basis. Now, what's the difference of that for that year or last year? Perhaps was that I was now in a appointed position in a department head in a role that many found to be rubbing wrong against some of the recommendations or decisions that was put forth. And ultimately, that was what was used to really force me out. But at the same time, when you look at that situation and look at the way I was forced out, that's a situation that this administration tend to use against hardworking people that go in really to do their job.
Just briefly tell us what happened that night. There was a police call and you had a confrontation officer?
Usually, we're at the Cape Verdean Association. If we have an event and if the noise is loud or the people are a little bit rowdy, if a patrol comes, we regularly resolve the situation and everybody moves on. But that particular night, no patrol came. Instead, you had 7 or 8 police car, undercover car, that came with their lights shut off, with a sergeant, a lieutenant on board, in a very, in a style ready for a raid. These undercover came inside and said, "Everyone go home. Party's over." And very abruptly. And myself, in the capacity of president, was arrested and charged with various charges.
What's the status of those charges?
Well, after being that I was had never had a record or anything, I was offered a program which I took, and also to do a community service, and there will be nothing on my record.
So basically, you had into an argument with a cop.
I didn't even get into an argument. I posed some questions as to why you're doing this. I called some of the other officers that patrol that area regularly and asked them what's going on. On my end, there was never a confrontation with the police officer, but the facts that are out there remain distorted. But I could tell you honestly, I did not have a confrontation with any of the officers that came that night.
All right, so do you view that you were, shortly after that, you were terminated, correct?
Yes.
Do you think that was what were you told why you were being terminated by the city?
Well, I was suspended without pay, pending an investigation. And I must point out that investigation never took place. I was never given the opportunity to speak before Labor Relations, to present my witnesses, and present my case to the Labor Relations. I hired Attorney Goulash, and both of us were very, very surprised at the outcome, because again, we were not given the opportunity. But when you sit back and look at the situation and analyze it, you say, you know what, perhaps at that time you were angry because it happened, but you understand that that's the tactic and the approach that this administration used.
When you talk to people, when you talk to voters in Bridgeport, what are they telling you about some of the issues that they face as citizens in the city?
Well, to begin, I'll tell you that I am very excited about the challenge that we have in front of us. I am I'm looking forward to the opportunity to make history in the city. When we walk every day and canvass the streets and visit the individual neighborhoods in different districts, they want change. They are tired of what's going on, that everything is at the back of the residents of the city. They're tired of the high taxes, the poor quality of education, the lack of public safety where we have a high crime rate, and really the delivery on the public services that they're being rendered by this administration.
Give us a little bit of a flavor of what a John Gomes administration would look like.
Well, to begin, I would tell you that my administration would be one that's inclusive. And when I say inclusive, I mean that my appointed position, my directors, would be from Bridgeport. They would live here, they would feel what's going on. The second thing is that my administration will be very much hands-on. A decision that should be made by the mayor, it will be made by the mayor, not by a third party. Definitely the reintroduction of city staff, but equally as important, education. I would have the superintendent sit on my board, and I would be very, very much involved in education to improve the quality and the level of education that we desperately need to get improved in the city.
If you become mayor, have you thought about what would be like one of the first two things action would take as mayor? What would be the first week like?
Well, the first week, it will be, as I have an idea, would be to have an open, a transparent administration. Right from the get-go, I would invite the media, the people to put forth their idea, and the media to follow me as I make this decision. I don't believe that we need to have two city halls. My first thing is I will put a desk in the first floor of Lion Terrace and greet and meet all the citizens that come in and tell them thank you for living in Bridgeport.
So you put the mayor's office back on Lion Terrace?
Lion Terrace, without a doubt.
That's where it should be. On Broad Street, okay.
Does not need to be on Broad Street. We do not need two city halls.
What kinds of business you want to attract to the city? Who would you reach out to in selling the city's assets to regional business community?
Well, I wouldn't say I would have specific people or industry that I want to sell the city to. What I would say is I would be open to the idea of hearing what the various sector, whether it's the medical sector, the service sector, the manufacturing sector, that's willing to listen to what they're looking to put in our city and how well that complements the vision of the city and the downtown district.
Janet, let's bring you in for a minute. Campaigning is hard work.
Yes, it is.
I know, having managed a bunch of races myself, I have great admiration for anyone who tries to run for mayor or any wife who's involved. Do you see yourself having an active role in helping John get elected?
Yes, actually, I'm already active. I walk with him every Sunday. We go out to walk and canvass the neighborhoods and talk to people. I walk with my kids, and it's a family event, So, and I'm going to the meetings. I've always been very involved with the Board of Education as PAC president of the school, and so I, talk to the parents, see what kind of changes they want, what things are important to them, and share that with John. And he comes with me, he listens, and I think
you have no choice, right? Does he have a choice? John and Janet, thanks for spending time with us here at Blood Group. Appreciate it.